We're still staying with Gary and Denise.
Yeah, they're going to take us to you stepping up and revealing 1 million people making...
So I'm not going
2,000.
2,000. 2,200
Right.
making peace with the end of their lives.
It was a freeway that had not opened. They had just paved it, and they said, you guys can film here.
And they had at least a mile, literally a mile, of extras in their cars.
It's a gargantuan scene. It's fabulous. You never see, you used to see movies with casts of thousands. Well, this is cars and thousands. It was just great that they were able to wrangle all these people together that came out and parked their cars and did this scene.
The challenge at the beginning, when we started planning this, was I think just coming up with how many people we can get in per hour and how we're actually going to park them and how we're going to get our people stretched across the highway to check them in, which takes a little bit of time. So you need to have 16 people stretched across the highway checking them in, and then you have to have another 12 people parking them with light wands.
We've got 2,100 extras in 1,870 cars, and these folks did their own propping out of the cars, dressed in particular clothing. We needed certain colors to be used, and showed up starting at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I think we did 160 cars every 15 minutes was our estimate. So we called them in 15-minute intervals, 4, 4:15, 4:30. And I think by 6:30 we were pretty much parked and ready to go.
Well, a lot of the trucks that you see, all our different trucks are, on the outside it looks like it's Baskin-Robbins or U-Haul or Budget, but on the inside we've got refrigerated trucks with breakfast and lunch.
We brought in large trailer porta-johns every 1/8 of a mile scattered about. We have motor homes for the medics that are air conditioned, so if people are feeling faint they just go into the motor home. Then we have a bunch of show trucks that we've rented, and we have ice, water, Gatorade, apples, bananas on the back of them just to keep people cooler and hydrated. I've been in big crowd scenes and never this hot before. And there is not a tree on this freeway. It's rough. It's very hot. It's been a real challenge for all of us and a great weight loss thing.
I thought it'd be exciting, it'd be something different. I saw the ad in the paper.
I've never been in a movie before, and I thought it'd be really neat. We did a couple of open calls, one at a high school in Manassas. I flew out in May, hired a local group here. They did a great job. And then we also did an open call in DC. Most of the people, 80% of the people here on the freeway this morning are from Manassas.
They said I could come with my daughter, so here I am, giving up 2 more hours of just to be with family.
Well, as my good friend Tara said, who told me about this, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
These people have been really great, and the greatest part about it is they've been great drivers. You know, you'd think you'd get some really crummy drivers. We've had maybe one fender bender, if any, and just really good drivers. It's very difficult to back up in this kind of a situation, and all of these people have managed to do it without running anybody over, without knocking into other cars. They've been great drivers.
What we did to communicate with 2,000 people is we had to organize an AM frequency so that we can speak to every one of these people through their own radio.
It took some doing to get it to happen. We were actually trying to get an FM station cleared and bring in a transmitter from LA, which was very expensive. But Virginia Department of Transportation just chimed in when they sort of heard us talking about it. They said, hey, we got this brand new transmitter and we think this could work. And sure enough, it does. It was just great.
And it took about 8 weeks of the most complicated paperwork and logistical nightmare dealing with the Department of Transportation, the FCC, but it works like a charm. We have one walkie-talkie that our first AD talks with, and all 2,000 people can hear them. They just turn their radio on.
All right, action cars pulling forward and hopping, please, guys, action.
Okay, copy, John. I'll get back to you. I'll make sure you have rolling.
It was hugely challenging, and I shot first unit. I had second unit getting shots of people looking at comets. And it was really challenging to shoot with a tiny little baby, the giving up of the baby, in the midst of all this traffic.
Quickly. Come on.
No arguing.
Let's get him in here. Help me with him.
Still making.
Let's get him in here. Watch his feet. Watch his feet. Andrew.
There we go.
And I really wanted to keep it frenetic, and I shot Steadicam, I shot handheld, and we kept moving. We moved very quickly.
Exit spray. Then I don't have that long to go. There were some motorcycles, behind him. Yeah, there was one. So we should have put some.
They were there. They were supposed to cross behind them. There they go.
Production went smoothly because Mimi was a good general. It was just everybody knew what they had to do.
We shot a lot of deep impact on location. We shot in Virginia, we shot in D.C., and it's always hard to shoot in D.C. It's very difficult because there's lots of restrictions.
And I would have led a parade. It was it was appalling. We owned this bridge for a day. I don't think they let any traffic through because they had so many stunts that they were doing on it. And
285A, take 4 marker.
All right, let's shoot it, please.
New York, I had just filmed a humongous chase sequence in New York for Peacemaker. And it was really interesting because I remember I was, walking through the streets of New York shooting. And all these extras started, "Hey, Mimi, how you doing?" It was like the same group of people that I had worked with, or a lot of them. And I always loved shooting in New York. I love New York. And then we shot The Comet, which was a movie unto itself. Tom, widen out, widen out.
I've had enough being an astronaut after this one, I think. I would rather maybe be in one maybe less realistic than this.
We talked about special training for the astronauts. We really didn't do any. We actually didn't have the time for it. So, they sort of just jumped in. It was a very tiresome, grueling experience for them because they were in these spacesuits where, they couldn't go to the bathroom for hours. They were hanging off of wires. They were on a spaceship that was hanging off of wires. And we literally were hanging our actors. And so, I had come off Peacemaker where I had done some visual effects. But in this film, I was really jumping in to the deep end.
A big part of my job is to be right there with Mimi all the time, providing support and providing advice, and also helping her solve problems every minute of the day when they come up. I mean, we can take the top of the arch out. As the wave gets closer and closer, the flag's blowing back, goes out of the frame.
That would be wonderful.
Tree squirrels landing everywhere.
That's wonderful.
And
so we'll do a straight version like this.
Yep.
Then we'll just do.
And there were always lots of questions for me. Well, what do you think you're going to need? And at times you don't know what you're going to need.
I started showing different artwork to Mimi, like after a couple of weeks after we got involved with this movie. And I can't even tell you how many color variations. The palette that we went through was, everything from green to blue to orange to red and everything. And we were designing that comet even as the shots were going into progress, because I would not like something, or Mimi would not like something, or as she cut in shots, it didn't work. And there was a point in time, I remember 3/4 of the way through our production, Dick Zanuck called up and he said, I think we've got to make this thing look meaner and make it look more fierce, even though we've been true to science. And I said, I couldn't agree with you more. So we started stripping away the vapor to show more of the rock and that sort of thing. And actually, one fellow that I've worked with a long time, Joel Aaron, he was working on the Comet at that time, and I said, you know what, let's put in a really mean face in there. So there's actually a little face in there on the front of the Comet, and it's been kind of pulled away and sculpted away so that you could see a little bit more of that.
It was truly a process. You couldn't start the movie thinking, knowing what you would end up with. You had an idea. You had a blueprint.
If we have some storyboards that kind of represent each of the cuts, and Mimi likes that, then we're ready to do the next step, which is go into animatics, where we actually animate these. And we don't do it for every shot, but maybe certain shots and really important shots where it's a little bit hard to visually figure out. Sometimes the storyboard is very clear, and that's good. But if you have a movement or something like a ship landing, and you need to no more what would the camera angle be, how high should the camera be off the side, surface, should it be sitting on the surface, see it tilt down, you know, you play with all those things just like if there was a real camera there. And then we once again show that to Mimi, and she cuts it in, and they decide, is that the look that they want? And these are all steps that are supposed to save money so that you arrive at what the idea will be sooner rather than later, because it's a lot more expensive to change the shot later.
And, you know, as there were budget restrictions, you would lose visual effects and try and do it practically. And Les Dilly, our production designer, built this comet that took over the entire stage of Stage 15 at Paramount. And I was filming one aspect of the show, of the movie, and he brought... We talked about colors. He'd show me tests of what color it was and how much texture and rut it had. And in the process of building the comet, he would bring over the cameraman so that the cameraman could build in light sources so that the shadows could be played a certain way. And the comet is alive and breathing, so we wanted areas for all the mist to come out of. And we created a lot of that mist, and then of course ILM added the rest of it. And underneath the comet was an army of special effects guys and lighting guys moving, you know, lights, throwing steam in, snow was everywhere. I mean, we had to literally come on the set with masks because the air was, you know, filled with snow that we created.
Then we at ILM would essentially enhance or enlarge the background of the set, whether it's vapors or sky, or more rolling comet tundra, you might say, going off into the distance. Then we did have a miniature comet surface, and we had basically a 12-foot ship that's flown around on our motion control stage, and that is...
Les and I talked about what it looked like, and then he drew it up, presented it to me, and we played with it, and then we handed it over to ILM, and they built miniatures, and then Les built a set for me. And what's great about building your sets is that you can really design your shots. And I had a lot of shots in mind that I would tell Les, I want to start in this hole and come down and come all the way down into this area here. So a lot of the set was designed for specific shots, and then it just falls together. And there was, the attention to detail was, nothing was left undone.
In the original version of the script, I had images of people trying to get out of Manhattan and the people with kayaks trying to get across to New Jersey just so they could get some possibility of moving inland. And those images were, for me, very large and very, very compelling. I think Mimi got enormous mileage out of the images that she has, and the destruction, very disturbing.
I had a more elaborate set of stunts going on in the wave, which I think would have taken away from the horror of it, because I wanted to have whales, steamships. I wanted to have a couple of surfers. I think I'd written this in an earlier draft, which everybody nixed immediately.
I had imagined all of Brooklyn lining the shores, all of these people who had literally nowhere to go, nowhere to run. And so people, rather than sitting in their homes, they came to the shores in masses of numbers, and hundreds of thousands of people stand there looking out at the world, looking out at the ocean, and then they see the wave and they all reach out to each other hand upon hand, people who never met each other, who never knew each other, all together in this last one gasp of a moment, and then the huge wave overtakes them all.
But for me, the film felt like they should be alone. Is it bluish? Is it greenish? How much foam does it have? How fast is it? And so these were really great discussions we had, and we developed the character of the wave.
I wanted so badly to be able to go out and shoot some water, but there was no way, because just a very rudimentary test showed that there's no way it would fit in. So everything that we did was a created wave, using really difficult programming. We had people working on trying to create software for close to 7 months. And I remember there's a shot also when the water pulls back off the sand. Chris Townsend, a CG artist, he worked on that shot close to 5 months. This was all new territory long before Perfect Storm came along, and we were kind of a stepping stone in the progression